watching the crowded world go by. Maybe we're all the same, out here searching for the rules that tell us how to live our lives. Some say the answers are written in the stars, but I've seen stars, they're just holes in the night. Hopes and fears, flesh and bone, we are not in this alone. It's the same joy and pain behind each and every door. It's the same sun shining everywhere we ever go. Born under the same sun. It shines the same on everyone. Born under the same sun. And it's the same rain falling. And it's the same wind blowing. All and all again under the sun.
Thank you. And I came here today to tell you about Fast Pass or spiritual bypass. I went to Disneyland a couple of years ago, and they have this really cool thing called Fast Pass. I hadn't been in 18 years, and I loved it because no matter who you are, if you buy a ticket, you get 3 opportunities for a Fast Pass, which means you get to bypass the line. You just sign up for what time you want to go, and then you show up at the ride. They have the hundreds of people who are waiting in line, and then you who just walks onto the ride, and it's a beautiful thing. I love it. And I thought when I first came to Centers for Spiritual Living, when I first walked in the door to my Center for Spiritual Living, I thought I would have a fast pass to enlightenment. It didn't happen that way. It didn't. What I did love is that when I first found Center for Spiritual Living, I was like, you are my people. You are my tribe. You're my peeps because you focus on the positive. And I, naturally, my whole life, I've always focused on the positive. And it's really good because the Mayo Clinic says when you focus on the positive, you get an increased lifespan. I don't know about you, but I have bumped into more people in their 80s and 90s at Centers for Spiritual Living that I thought were in their 50s and 60s. Hasn't that happened? They're everywhere at Centers for Spiritual Living. It's amazing. Additionally, focusing on the positive lowers rates of depression. It lowers your levels of distress. It gives you a greater resistance to the common cold. You have better physical well-being, better cardiovascular health, better coping skills during hardships and times of stress. I love that. And we also teach here that our thoughts create our reality. Now, if you look around, there's a lot of happy people here. There really are. Look around. There's some happy people going on, I will admit. And I also appreciate that we teach you not to leave your brain at the door. You actually get the opportunity to walk in and question everything. Please question everything. Please, if it's your first time here, question everything. Just try on some things and see what works for you. What I did notice is when I first started, I was trying to understand the concept of being positive and that my thoughts create my reality. And I came in and I was in breakdown. And then somebody said to me, well, where's your consciousness? What kind of thoughts have you been thinking? And it was shaming. It was a shaming. And I've noticed that when there's a level of not completely understanding the truth of what we teach, then the shaming happens. But I want to encourage you to understand that there's a little bit deeper understanding. It's not just about that. There's a little bit more going on. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, in Science of Mind, we do not say everything is all right when it is all wrong. We do not say peace when there's no peace, but rather we try to discover what is wrong and why we do not have peace. We do not say that people are not poor, not sick, not unhappy. We ask why these things should be if the original cause of all things is harmonious, perfect, radiant, and happy? I love that Ernest Holmes says that. We don't pretend that events in our lives are not happening. We don't pretend like it's not happening. It is happening. Racism is happening. War is happening. Discrimination is happening. We don't pretend like that's not happening. What we do is we learn the difference between recognizing the circumstances on the human plane of existence and then claiming the spiritual truth, as opposed to refusing to recognize the human experience completely. When one refuses to recognize the human experience completely, it's called a spiritual bypass. And the official term of spiritual bypass was created by a man named John Wellwood, who is a Buddhist teacher and psychotherapist. And what he said is spiritual bypass, or spiritual bypassing, is a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks. It was established in the early 1980s. And I really appreciate that because it gives me an opportunity to really define or get down into what is this spiritual life, living a spiritual life, being a spiritual master, being a master of my own life, of my own connection to the divine. Every person in this room is a spiritual master. And the way we attain mastery of our spiritual connection is through spiritual practice. And each and every person has this opportunity to unveil, unleash, open up to the spiritual mastery. Everybody has that potential because it's already there on the spiritual plane. We just get to align ourselves so we can discover that truth about ourselves that's already inherent within each and every one of us. When I try and describe the spiritual bypassing, I think about when I had my ex and I were together, and I knew that there was something going on. Like I had this gut feeling. Anybody had a gut feeling before? Gut feeling? Like something does not feel right. And yet we're pretending like everything is okay. There's that facade that everything is okay. And the gut feeling was there. And I finally got to the point where I realized I needed to pray and affirm clarity and affirm opening and affirm radical transformation in my life. By the way, don't do that. That's really scary. Ease and graceful transformation is awesome. Radical, a little bit challenging. And I found out that my ex was seeing somebody else, and it was not in our agreement. We were just together, not with other people, and she was seeing somebody else, and I discovered that. And what I realized is that's kind of like a spiritual bypass. The spiritual bypass is the facade, right? The spiritual bypass is like, everything is okay, everything's great, and yet there's this underlying thing that's going on. And when I get down into my spirituality and when I get deep into really taking myself on and taking God on and taking the divine on in a deep and transformative way, I gotta look there. I gotta look there because when I find out this thing that has happened, then I have an opportunity to be at choice and deal with it. When I know what's going on, when I realize what beliefs are prohibiting me from being my most magnificent self, or I realize what's going on in the underbelly of our country, and it comes to surface and it comes to light, it gives me the opportunity to be at choice at that time. And instead of recognizing that as a terrible thing, honestly, when I discovered that about my relationship, it completely transformed my life. And I'm not in that relationship anymore, but what it did is it gave me the relationship with God that I needed to have. It wasn't a bad thing. It felt bad at the time, but it wasn't a thing that was terrible. It was something that was for my good, for my highest and greatest transformation and revelation. And I think about spiritual bypass. I was reading Robert Masters, and he said, spiritual bypass is avoidance in holy drag. That's right, Queen. Hallelujah, Jesus. I love it, the holy drag. It's really the persistent shadow of spirituality. And just so you know, if you've been spiritual bypassing, these are some telltale signs of spiritual bypassing. And I've done this too. I'm not saying this because I haven't done it. I'm telling you this because I've done it. Perhaps if you're living in a world of exaggerated detachment, you're spiritual bypassing. If you're emotionally numbing, you could be spiritual bypassing. If you have an overemphasis on the positive, you could be spiritual bypassing. Now, I want to say, though, I'm a positive person. And whenever I'm just positive. It's just in my DNA. That's how I am. Now, if something very difficult and challenging was going on in my life, like when my father died and somebody asked me, "How are you doing?" And I go, "I'm great." The truth is, I'm not. And I just wonder how many people have walked into this room with that thing going on in their life, afraid to be authentic and honest about what's going on because they're afraid of being judged. Now, I want to encourage you to be a welcoming presence, number one, to invite people to be authentic with who they are. And number two, if that's you, I want you to walk into this place and use the space of this community as an invitation to heal, as an invitation to be authentic and real with who you are. I got to see this through some spiritual masters during the fires that happened last year. There was a lot that happened in Washington and Oregon and California. And Santa Rosa is nearby San Jose, where I was Seattleite. And Santa Rosa, 1/5 of the city burned down. 1/5. Yeah. It's pretty intense. And this family who lost their house, they were staying with some friends. They came to my center on Sunday, and I got to talk to them afterwards. Now, in spiritual bypass, there's like, "How are you?" "I'm great." And there's something underneath going on. And then there's the not spiritually tuned, where it's like, how are you?" "My life is going to hell." So you've got the both sides, but there's a middle ground here. And that's where the spiritual mastery comes in, the discernment. And this couple who had their house burned down, they showed me what that looked like. They said, I asked them, "How are you?" And they told me, it was really hard to lose everything. It was devastating. And we're grieving. We miss it. And yet at the same time, we realize that we're free for the very first time in our life. We are free to be whoever we want to be. We can completely redefine ourselves. We don't have anything holding us back. Nothing. We can be migrants. We can just find a new place to live. We can create a new image of ourselves. Everything is all brand new. And there's excitement in that. And at the same time, we're grieving. Do you see the discerning point in that? When I am a spiritual master, I recognize that I'm recognizing and looking for the good in the situation, but it doesn't mean that I don't have grief and I'm not uncomfortable about the change. It's okay to be in the midst of the uncomfortability of it. As a matter of fact, if you aren't uncomfortable, you're probably not growing. Just saying. It's okay to sometimes be comfortable and sit there for a while, but then if you really want to move on, then you get to those uncomfortable places. Sometimes I notice that when we're immersed in spiritual bypassing, it's like we like the light, like, "Oh, CSL, so wonderful. Like the light, but we don't like the heat too much." We're gonna distance ourselves from those flames. Well, it's nice and shiny, but don't get too close. Viktor Frankl says, "What gives light must endure burning." I want to invite you to go to that place, going into the challenging spots, trekking to the core, entering and getting intimate with whatever's there, however scary or traumatic or raw. And I think about that. I could have been in this relationship with my ex, and it could have been okay. But if I never went to that space of what was actually going on, I never could have had that healing and the revealing of a higher good for me. And that's my invitation to you, is to take on what challenge is going on in your life and find out what are the gifts and what are the places within myself that need to be transformed and revealed as a result of it. I can guarantee you that I'm a better person because of my former relationship. I can guarantee you I looked at that relationship and I said, you know what? There were habits and behaviors that were cause for her to want to go elsewhere. Do you know how uncomfortable that is? Oh. And at the same time, I wanted to be in a healthy and vibrant relationship, and I was part of the cause of it not being vibrant and healthy. And I shifted those ways of being, and because of that, I attracted to myself this amazing relationship that I've been in over 12 years. And I invite you to think about what it is in my life that I can do to shift and change and open to a new way of being. Who can I be? Ernest Holmes said that when we say that our body is a spiritual body, we're not saying that we have no eyes, or we have no feet, or we have no stomach. These are things that are all included in the spiritual system. God's world is not a world of illusion, but of realities. The illusion is not in the thing, but in the way we look and think about the thing. Everything is as it should be. And I think about this in football. Are there any Seahawks fans here? Seahawks? Oh! All the first service, there was like 3 in first service. Y'all come to second service. Okay, now I know who I'm playing with here. Okay. Well, I think about football, and if the Seahawks play a game, I can guarantee you after the game, the coach is sitting them down and they're watching the game again. And they're looking at, wow, you know what? I missed that pass, or I didn't do that right, or you sent me a clue and I didn't pay attention to that message. And as they review what was going on, they get better. They look at the mistakes, at the challenges, at the difficulties, and because of that, they improve their game. And I can use that in my own life. I can look at, wow, I was in an abusive relationship. Oh, who's the common denominator? Right? And I can use and look back at my life, and I can use it as a tool to point me into the direction of what I really want. If I'm not getting this, what can I change within me to improve myself so I can be the attractor? I can be on par with that. Each and every person has to go there and look at those places. And I'm not saying there's not room for miracles. There is. Miracles happen every day, but miracles happen every day because we're doing that work. I make my space, I make my place a receptive place for miracles to happen. And I may go down in the valley of the shadow of doubt or death or hell, whatever that is. That really dark place. I may be in that dark place, and when I'm in that dark place, I can know it's not going to still be this way. This too shall pass. I don't have to set up camp and dwell on it, but what I can do is say, what are the gifts in this for me? What are the gifts in this for me? And it's okay that it's challenging. It's okay that it's uncomfortable. It's okay that this is my growth spot. It's okay that it looks messy. Every time we're growing and changing, it gets a little messy, and that's okay. I want to invite you to think about every space in your life. If there's a problem in your job, or if there's a problem in your home life, or there's a problem in your, in your relationships, just look at those as opportunities for that next spiritual revelation and healing to happen. Because really, they're little gifts in the dark spots. And the same thing is happening in our country. There's a lot of darkness going on in our country. There's a lot of dark spots that are going on in our country. But this is our opportunity as spiritual masters of healing and revealing the highest truth to go into that spot and go, where is that gift? Where can I be that person who sees the possibility in this challenge? Maybe it's me. Maybe I can be the one to see that truth. I'm reading this book right now called The Book of Joy from the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And these men could be people who could practice spiritual bypass, and people might think that that's what they do, but they don't. They're insanely joyful, amazingly wonderful people. I've seen the Dalai Lama in person, and he's just a joy to be around. And it's amazing that they have all this darkness in their past, but they use it as an opportunity for more good in the world. The Dalai Lama was exiled from his country many, many years ago, and he holds the possibility, he holds the truth, the idea, the seed that his people can live in a free country, and he will not let that vision go. And he speaks about it, and he talks about it, and he knows this truth for his people. I love that practice. I love the practice where in each person or in each situation, I might see the seed of possibility. Like in you is an oak tree. In you is an oak tree. But maybe one person is at the seed stage and one person is sprouting a leaf and another person has a whole tree and another one is already, putting out the seeds out into the universe. Does that mean that one stage is wrong or right or better or worse than the other? No. Can we honor everybody where they're at? And yet at the same time see the oak tree of possibility in each person. I also think of it like a baby. Like if I have somebody challenging in my life that I'm thinking of, when they were born just unlimited, beautiful beings of possibility. And then what happened was either culture or society or parents or whatever it was taught them how to be limited. But each and every one of us, when we're born, we're unlimited beings of joy. And I recognize and know that when I see a person who may be behaving in a way that I don't think is very loving, it may be because they haven't received very much love in their life. And it may be because they need to have somebody like me or you see that possibility in them. I can guarantee you, if you take that idea out into this week, and every person that you're challenged by, everything you hear on the news that you don't like, everything that you see in some situation that ruffles your feathers, that if you take that idea of seeing the seed in that person, seeing that there's an oak tree of possibility, seeing the baby that is newborn where maybe they just didn't get the love that you are all getting here. And maybe it's my opportunity to be the example, to be the one who gives that love because everybody deserves it. I want you to take that on this week and try it out. Try it on for size. I recognize and know that sometimes it is really challenging to do so. But I'm inspired by Desmond Tutu, who lived through and he peacefully protested apartheid in South Africa. And I just read the book by Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. I don't know if you've read that or not. It's amazing. And I really didn't understand apartheid until I read that book on how terrible, how traumatic it was. And Desmond Tutu is part of the reconciliation, part of the healing of his country. And he said that during the days of apartheid, he would pray daily for the government officials who were maintaining that oppressive system. He prayed for them to transform their hearts and to transform the racist system they created. But he also prayed sincerely for their well-being. It helped him to love them rather than hate them. And it ultimately made it possible to work with them and to transform that country into a democracy. Imagine if that were you. Could you do that? It may be happening right now in some situation for some people. Would you be willing to be that point of inspiration? Would you be willing to be that point of light? Would you be willing to do the hard work of loving somebody when they're not being loving back to you? I want to invite you to take that on this week. I'm going to do it a little bit right now. Just let's go ahead and bring somebody to mind that is challenging you. Anybody. It could be a government official. It could be somebody in your close sphere. And just bring them to mind, close your eyes, and turn your attention inward. And I'd like you to imagine that person as a seed of possibility, or imagine them as a baby. And just inwardly pray for their joy and happiness. See them as a child of the divine, deserving of the divine's love, or as another human being who shares your desire to be happy and to avoid suffering. And I want you to just bless them and see that possibility in them, surrendering all the armor of the anger, surrendering all the armor of what you think they should be doing, and just instead getting to that place of love and connection. And now go ahead and open your eyes. And as I have done that here with you, something has shifted in the world. Because of you willing to go there and do that, you have literally transformed the world. And I encourage you to do that every day for 2 weeks. Every day for 2 weeks. And see how your own world shifts. I've noticed as I've been doing this practice that things that used to bother me don't bother me anymore. Things that I thought were really dramatic and hateful, I just see the call for love in them. People who used to irritate me, they don't irritate me anymore. Because I recognize that instead of going to the spiritual bypass where everything is great, everything is fine, I recognize and know that we're transforming and we're evolving and we're stepping into a new way of being. And this new way of being is about being welcoming, about being a force for good in the world, about being a place where the divine shows up to show everybody else what spiritual mastery looks like. And I don't even have to be perfect. Nobody does. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to try and try and try again. And keep trying, and keep praying, and keep doing your spiritual practice, keep doing your meditation and your mindfulness, keep doing your circulation, and continue on. And some time in your life, you will get that fast pass. Because it's happened to me. I guarantee you, the fast pass really means that you've been doing your work. And the spiritual bypass is for those people who haven't really been doing the work and they've been pretending they've been doing the work. So which do you choose? Do you choose to have the fast pass because you've been doing your work? Or do you want the spiritual bypass because we're living in an inauthentic world? I choose to live in an authentic world. I choose to be a person of influence, of love, of seeing you for who you really are. And for knowing that there is challenging stuff going on. There's discrimination, there is war. And yet I am part of the solution, and so are you. So join me this week in doing that. Will you do that? Yes. All right, and so it is. Thank you. Let's pray. I just feel the gratitude from the depths of my soul, knowing that this is a place where God shows up in and through me. I'm so humbled and honored that the infinite great creator that created all love and all life, all harmony, all peace, all love, shows me outwardly and inwardly what that is like to experience to the depths of my soul, to the depths of my beingness. And I just take it in. And I recognize and know today that something has been opened and awakened and shifted and gifted and lifted in me and in each and every person who's here and each and every person who's online listening to these words, that something is transforming each of us as we are connected in this big, universal, infinite tapestry of life. I see the beauty in it. I see the love in it. I am the love in it. And I surrender to that idea, knowing that it opens up to me miracles, infinite possibilities, wonders, that I truly do get that fast pass to enlightenment because it's already here. And now I get to see it. And for that, I'm grateful. And I know, as this is true for me, I claim this for each and every person in this community, each and every person in this government, each and every person in this world who is suffering. I see their truth and I know that there is love unfolding because it is the divine's path to continue to evolve itself into the highest and greatest version of itself it knows possible. And that's happening right now. And so I release this prayer, knowing that it's already done, knowing I don't have to do anything except just be present here now. And so it is.